Hi, I'm Lisa Gonzales, Chief Business Officer here in the Mt Diablo Unified School District. And in this week's episode of Ask the CBO, I'm going to be taking a look at a comparative analysis of benefits. And really the analysis is based on what we spend on benefits as a district for our employees, as opposed to some comparable districts, whether it is here in Contra Costa County or whether it is through the rest of the state. So to start with, what you'll see here is a look at 5 school districts that are very similar to Mt Diablo Unified. So when we take a look across the entire state and look at the categories of English learners, enrollment, free and reduced meal eligibility, and special education, these districts are most like us. So these are the ones that when we say we're looking at our similar districts or our comparable districts, we're going to take a look at these 5. So let's start with all local revenue. Moving my picture out of the way here. If we take a look at all the revenue that is received in a school district, I'm having us take a look at all of the unified school districts, but I've also added Acalanes. And the reason that I've added Acalanes is because we're often compared to them and what they have to spend. And so I wanted to try to pull this information in. So what this shows is the left side, it gives us the percentage of general fund revenue that we receive from different sources. And the reason that I have the arrows that are all pointing to the red on that left side is because the red constitutes other local revenue, or for the most part, parcel taxes that other districts have available. So when you take a look at other local revenue and some of the other amounts that are brought in, the green arrow shows Mt Diablo Unified, as opposed to a number of the other districts and where they are. So if you take a look at West Contra Costa, you can see their red section is much larger, as well as Acalanes. But when you go over to the right side, what it really shows us is the actual amount of money that the district receives in revenue per student. Mt Diablo is at $11,735. But when you compare us with Acalanes, they have almost $3,000 per student more than we do. Some of that is based on other parcel taxes and local revenue. But if you just look at the average of all the districts, and you can see that line there that's in gray in that right chart, you see that the average unified district in our county is approximately $615 more per student. And then even West Contra Costa is about $622 more. And so this makes a difference because just from the very start, we don't have as much money as other districts have. As a matter of fact, we're still about $615 below the average. This has to do with the revenue comparison again. So what I've done is I've taken the information from the last slide and I've just honed in here on LCFF and local revenue again. So you see Mt Diablo Unified. When you take a look at general fund revenue only, this is approximately where we are compared to other districts. So the average of all of the districts and their revenue is approximately $10,604 compared to ours at about $9,378. So that means that we are in just these 2 categories of LCFF and other local revenue, again, which is often parcel or property taxes. It shows exactly where we are compared to those districts, notably lower and certainly notably lower than the average. Now, this slide right here allows us to do a comparison against other similar districts. And the reason this is important is because sometimes it's hard to compare us to an Acalanes or a West Contra Costa because our student populations are very different. But these are similar districts. And what you can see is we start getting much closer to being average. So now when you compare us to these other districts, again, many of them in large urban areas with, similar prices for homes, San Jose Unified is one on here. What you see is we're closer to average. So we're about $382 on average, less than similar districts. Now, I'm going to start slowing down in these slides just a little bit so that you can take a little bit of a longer look. But what this does is this shows us all the funds that are spent on benefits as a percentage of our entire budget. So if our entire budget is 100%, we spend approximately 28.04% on employee benefits. When you compare us to the other districts that are in our county, again, we take a look at all the unifieds and we're adding Acalanes in. You can see that we're about 1.43% higher than the average. John Sweat is the only district that actually has more than we do, and that's a much smaller district here in our county. In this slide, what I've done is I've taken a look at the employee benefits. And this one is pulling in all of the districts in the county because, of course, I've compared us to those unifieds, but here I just wanted you to see the bigger picture. So the average of all the districts in our county for what districts contribute to cover benefits is an average of 25.77%. We are up at 28.04, which means that we spend 2.27% of our entire budget more than other districts do. And again, I'm going to bring in our comparative districts. And again, we're actually smack dab on average. So you can see that Placentia, Yorba Linda, San Jose Unified, Glendale are a little more. Orange and Chino Valley, both in Southern California, are a little less. Now, this is a slide because many of you have asked this question about retirees. So we picked a common retiree plan. So this is for a family plan, which means that somebody retires and they're still eligible for benefits, that we pay for those benefits until they reach age 65, at least the percentage that we have agreed to pay in our collective bargaining agreements. And so what you see here is the average of the unified districts plus the county office in family. And the reason that some of the other districts are not here is because they don't offer family coverage. We do. The average per retiree is approximately $14,441. Mt Diablo Unified is about $4,700 per retiree more. So you can see that our amount is, although it's not listed on here, it's in about the mid $19,000 range. So that shows that we're about $4,700 above our neighboring districts. This slide, and again, I'll let you sit with this one for just a second. This is where we compare all of the districts in our county, and it's the percentage that's spent on classified salaries and benefits. We pull this one out because this is available on the state's J90, but it's an interesting category to look at because it does narrow down to really all of our classified staff. So this is all of our support. And what this one shows is the column that you're seeing right in the middle, the percentage of current expense of education. The average is 21.35% of all of the districts in our county. It's the average of what they spend for classified salaries and benefits. And you see Mt Diablo up at 22.40%. So we're a little above the average, which means that we're spending more on more of our overall budget just on salaries and benefits for this employment group. The column on the right You'll see the arrow again there, the green arrow for Mt Diablo. You see where the gray line is for the average. The average is $24.13 per student. So the amount of revenue that we receive per student, approximately $2,400 of what we receive per student goes toward classified salaries and benefits. And we're a little bit higher there by about $160 per employee more than many of our neighboring districts. Canyon throws everything a little off. They're a very, very small district in our county. I think they've got 30 or fewer students. And so their numbers do skew just a little bit there. So again, wanted to share all of this information just so that you can see how we compare with regard to the percentage of our budget and the amount that we are using to support salaries and benefits right now for our employees. So with that said, happy to answer any other questions. If anybody has any, please go ahead and send those to cbo@mdusd.org.